Before I get into this, let me just go ahead and say that this, the problem with video, will mostly just be talking about the community and not the game itself. I personally enjoy the game and 90% of the time have an absolute blast while playing it. The last 10% is when I'm put up against either a toxic killer or toxic survivors when I was already having a bad day. And yes, I am aware of the glitches basically being ignored by the dev team.
I think we did a pretty good job so far.
And the slightly broken OP perks / combos on both sides. Other than those things, there's not that much of an issue with the game itself. That's why this isn't the problem with Dead by Daylight. This is the problem with Dead by Daylight's community. Now, I just want to go ahead and get the obvious part of the toxic community out of the way, which is the killer versus survivor war that's currently going on, where each side whines about the game being killer-sided or survivor-sided. As someone who plays both killer and survivor, I can say that neither side is overpowered or underpowered. In order to kind of show how each side is unreasonably toxic to each other, I'm going to split this into two parts: killers and survivors. Now, killer mains, y'all do have some OP perks, unfair tactics, and also a few amount of OP killers. So don't try to say you don't, because you do. And survivor mains, we'll wait until we get to your part of the video to talk more about it, but don't say anything about the game being killer-sided either. To be honest, there's not really a whole lot of perks I personally find OP or annoying to play against. And, you know, by not a whole lot, I literally just find one of them to be annoying. So let's go ahead and get the most obvious OP perk out of the way: No One Escapes Death, or NOED. If the exit gates are powered and there is at least one dull totem remaining, you will get a speed boost and the ability to down a survivor in one hit regardless of what health state they're in. This is a bit unfair to survivors, specifically if someone was actually caught and then hooked, because let's be honest, if you get hooked while the killer has NOED, you might as well have just gotten moried. No one is going to save you unless you have Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, or Deliverance. I think the worst part of it is some killers only attack after they have opened the gate and try and use NOED, which obviously is fucking stupid. You shouldn't rely on a fucking endgame perk. Despite what I have said about NOED though, it's not really that strong by itself. It can be easily countered just by cleansing the totem. However, NOED is very strong when paired with Haunted Grounds, a hex perk that if you're unlucky enough, well... Yeah, Haunted Grounds spawns in 2 active totems that if you cleanse one of them, you'll be exposed for 1 minute. And there's no way to tell the difference between a NOED totem and one of the 2 trap totems until after you've cleansed it. Hell, you can even make it stronger by using Hex Undying, which makes it to where if there is still dull totems in the game and the survivor accidentally cleanses a Haunted Ground totem, not only will the second one remain lit, Undying will spawn another Haunted Ground totem. So all in all, NOED is annoying to play against, but it's only truly overpowered when combined with Haunted Grounds and Undying. These other ones I've not really had any problems with, or I just personally don't think they're as overpowered as most survivor mains say, and for these I'll just go ahead and read out a list of each overpowered perk and read off what they do. A Nurse's Calling reveals survivors who are healing or being healed while they are within a range of 20 to 24 to 28 meters. Corrupt Intervention: the 3 generators located farthest from the killer are blocked by the entity for 80 to 100 to 120 seconds. Hex Ruin: all generators automatically regress at 100 to 150 to 200% of the normal regression speed whenever they are not being repaired. Honestly, this one can be annoying to play against, but at the same time, it's meant to put pressure on survivors, which is what the killer is supposed to do, so I can't really get mad at it. Barbecue and Chili: after you hook a survivor, the auras of other survivors are revealed to you for 4 seconds when they are farther than 40 meters from the hook. Monstrous Shrine: there are 3 parts to this that mostly affect the survivor being hooked. Hook progression is accelerated by 369%. Self-unhook difficulty is increased by 5, 10, 15%. Self-unhook penalty is increased by 369%. Territorial imperative, mostly only when paired with Monstrous Shrine, can it be really considered annoying? Aura of a survivor entering the basement when the killer is at least 32 meters away is revealed to the killer for 3 seconds. Surveillance. I actually got messaged recently from someone salty who told me I was a bitch for using this, and sadly I deleted the fucking message, but the auras of regressing generators are highlighted in white. If a survivor stops the regression process, the generator's aura will be highlighted in yellow for 8 to 12 to 16 seconds. As a pigman who uses this, I don't really think it's that OP. The white aura part of it only lasts while it's regressing, so you just have to wait until it stops in order to bypass it. And I won't be able to watch a gen that I'm regressing if I'm chasing someone else down, so that's another way to kind of counter it. Franklin's demise. The killer's basic attacks make survivors drop their item on impact. If the dropped item is not recovered within 150, 120 to 90 seconds, it will be consumed by the entity. And of course, infectious fright. Whenever a survivor is put into the dying state by any means, all other survivors within your terror radius will scream and reveal their current location to you for 4 to 5 to 6 seconds. Now, are y'all ready to know what I think is the most annoying character to play against? Well, it's time to
Guess That Killer!
Welcome to Guess That Killer. I'm your host, Riley the Wolf, and welcome to the one-time only show where our guests are going to attempt to guess what killer I find the most annoying. Here... Shut up! Here are our guests, Rice Mint, Banana Man Jones, and Chef.
We're gonna put up an outline of the killer Riley hates playing against, and that'll be your one tip for your guess.
Alright, Rice Mint, you're up first. Bruh, the answer is so easy, it makes y'all look irrelevant. Okay, Banana Man? I would like to go with Michael Myers. I didn't understand most of that, but okay. Anyway, Chef, my name is Chef. Why the fuck would you say Leatherface? Why would you say Michael? I see the outline of a giant knife in the mask. God, you're an irrelevant moron. The answer to which killer I absolutely hate playing against is... Leatherface!
My name is Chef.
And now for something completely different. Yes, despite a logo I use for Dead by Daylight videos being Dead by Daylight Nurse is OP, I don't actually find Nurse to be overpowered. However, I find Bubba to be just a bit overpowered with his chainsaw. His toddler tantrum ability not only has no cooldown, it's also the main reason why people get basement camped almost every game. Oh, you want to unhook the survivor? Good fucking luck, you dumb motherfucker! Other killers that other people believe to be OP include Spirit, Deathslinger, Nurse, Legion, Demogorgon, for some reason, Billy, Dr. Freddy, and of course, Michael. Some of these I can at least kind of understand, while others make me confused on why they're even on this list. Also, I know this doesn't have anything to do with overpowered or underpowered killers, but can y'all stop saying that Trickster is not a true killer? That's his whole character's point. He's supposed to look like some average K-pop star, but he's a complete psychopathic murderer. He literally uses his victims' dying breaths for his music. Not every killer has to look like they just got out of the grave. Like, holy shit, I really shouldn't be getting mad at this, but the amount of you fuckers saying that Trickster is not a real killer just boils my blood for some reason. You bunch of stupid motherfuckers. For killers, I get there are meant to be strategies that are useful to kill the survivors, like moonwalking, slugging, sort of, baiting pallets, and switching targets. But there are some strategies that are stupid in one way or another. For instance, I know I just said slugging is useful, but listen again to what I said. Moonwalking, slugging, sort of. What I meant is that slugging should be used more to chase off someone trying to flashlight or pallet save and not to get easy 4Ks. It's not only an asshole move, but it also just takes one person with unbreakable flip-flop or even no mither to ruin this plan entirely. Face camping is the most annoying strategy used by killers. But it's also dumb of the killer because while the killer's there nodding and hitting at the person hanging, the other 3 survivors can finish the rest of the gens and escape. As someone who plays killer, I would much rather have 1 survivor escape through hatch than have 3 survivors escape because I wanted to secure 1 kill. While you, most likely Leatherface with the Insidious perk, are sitting close to the hook or in the corner of the basement, you should remember that there are 4 survivors, not just 1. The only time some form of camping is acceptable, in my opinion, is when the survivor is being extremely toxic themselves. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead. This one isn't really annoying if you know how to loop the killer, but it is a bad strategy still, due to where it has the same problem as camping. While you're chasing down a Meg, the other 3 survivors are completing the gens and opening the exit. I know this isn't an actual strategy, but holy shit, killers DC a lot. I don't understand DCing, because then you just lose any add-ons you put on or any blood points you may have earned during the match. Plus, do you really want to be in an Ochido video as DCing killer number 1256? No? Didn't think so. Okay, I think that's enough about talking about the killers. Now, survivors can be separated into 2 halves. The good, fun-having ones who don't care that much about winning or losing. And then there's the toxic, entitled, sweaty cunts who will teabag when you fail and call you slurs when you succeed. I'll let you decide whether it's 50-50 with those or not, but for this, we're mostly just going to be talking about the toxic side. Remember, killers, you also have OP perks and other things, so, don't say anything. Believe it or not, I actually have no personal vendettas against any of the survivor perks, mostly because I've never actually had to deal with any of the overpowered ones. So I'll just list off survivor perks other people consider to be OP and kind of explain how they're not as OP as people think and how to counter it. Decisive Strike. After being unhooked or unhooking yourself, Decisive Strike activates for the next 40 to 50 to 60 seconds. If the killer tries to pick you up, you can stun them after successfully completing a skill check. This is the most obvious overpowered survivor perk on this list, but really it's kinda shit. First of all you'd have to do to counter is just wait it out or slug them. Second, mostly with only its recent nerf, you can't do most tasks while it's active, so it's also easy to know if they have it or not. If they aren't doing gens, healing, cleansing totems, or unhooking others, then they most likely have DS. Adrenaline. When the exit gates are powered, survivors instantly heal 1 health state and sprint at 150% of the normal running speed for 5 seconds. With this perk, people don't really say it's overpowered, it's just more annoying to play against, which, I'd get. I'd be annoyed too if I was about to pick up a down survivor, but someone finishes the last gen and all of a sudden the survivor just got up and zoomed off like Speedy Gonzalez. Probably the best way to counter this would be to run Hex Ruin, since it can slow down survivors' progress on gens, and another way is to not slug at all. As soon as you down the person and can pick them up, do so. Dead Hard. When injured, tap into your adrenaline bank and dash forward quickly to avoid damage. Basically, you can avoid damage by pressing a button, but the trade-off is that you become exhausted. Obviously, the counter to this is to run add-ons or perks like Blood Echo or Mindbreaker. Hell, most of the time, survivors can accidentally counter their own Dead Hard if they accidentally use any perk that has the become exhausted trade-off. One weird point that someone made was that Dead Hard is annoying because it's just another health state. Like, no, it's not. Shut up. Borrowed Time. For 10 to 12 to 15 seconds after unhooking a survivor within the killer's terror radius, the unhooked survivor is protected by the Endurance status effect. Basically, it's just a counter to face camping. The best way to counter it is either to not camp in the first place, play Freddy, or use any killer or power add-on that gives the Oblivious status effect. Unbreakable. Once per trial, a survivor can completely recover from the dying state. The counter to this is literally just do not slug for a long time. That's it. Next perk. Finally, we have Sprint Burst. When starting to run, break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. Just like Dead Hard, just use add-ons or those 2 perks to counter it, and also like Dead Hard, they can just end up countering themselves with a different perk.
Wait, why didn't you talk about entitled killers?
Ah! Goblin! Ah! Honestly, he does have a good point. There are definitely some entitled killers out there. However, they are vastly overshadowed by the giant crowd of entitled survivors. Hell, there's an entire rule book that was made to make fun of the entitled survivors, and that part is so prevalent, I'm renaming this part of the survivors section to... Yeah, that's better. So, from what I could find, there are two versions of this book, both of them basically based on Sam Nation's Dead by Daylight parody animations. The first one I'm going to read is a bit of a synopsis of the rules, so I'll be able to read them all. The Hex Totem Rule. At the start of the trial, be sure to allow survivors enough time to find any hex totems you have and remove them from the map. Never camp them, and never defend them. The survivors need the points from cleansing them, and they need to have nothing slowing the progress of their generator repairs. The Tunneling Rule. After all totems have been cleansed, see Hex Totem Rule, allow survivors to work on generators. If you come across one, do not chase them. Chasing them is an act of tunneling and is forbidden. If for some reason you have caught and downed a survivor, do not leave them down, see the Slugging Rule. Place them on a hook immediately and run to the other side of the map, see the Camping Rule. This allows the survivors to safely unhook and heal the injured survivor. Never chase the survivor that was unhooked because that violates this rule also. Allow ample time for the heal and for them to return to repairing generators. Holy shit. The Camping Rule. If for some reason you have ignored the Tunneling Rule and or the Hex Totem Rule and have caught and hooked the survivor, leave the hook immediately. Never stay close enough for survivors to hear the terror radius, aka the heartbeat. Never stay within eye shot of the hooked survivor either. If you can see them, it is still considered camping. The general rule is to go to the opposite side of the map immediately. This rule also applies to hex totems. See the Hex Totem Rule. How dare you use a hex totem anyway? Shame! The Slugging Rule. If for some reason you have ignored the Tunneling Rule, do not leave any survivors you have injured on the ground. Not even to look for any other survivors. This is a no-no and is in direct violation of this rule, and never down more than 1 or 2 survivors, or all 4 for that matter. The Perk Rule. Perks are part of the game, but you should never use any perk that gives you the slightest advantage over the survivors. Perks such as Hex Ruin or Hex Noed are frowned upon greatly. Franklin's Demise is also another dastardly perk that you should avoid. A survivor's item... A survivor's item is a precious thing, and this perk will damage. Any perk that greatly increases your chance of sacrificing a survivor should be avoided. Also included in this rule is an add-on or offering that will also increase your advantage. Examples are Judith's? God damn it, Riley, it's Judith's! Examples are Judith's Tombstone, Ebony Mori, or Iridescent Hatches. Or Iridescent Hatchets. The Disconnect Rule. If for some reason the game has booted a survivor from the trial, or an upset survivor has left, you are still to follow all the rules in this guide. Ignoring the rules is forbidden, because it isn't fair for the killer to face 1 to 3 less survivors and play the game as intended. The Hatch Rule. When all the survivors have completed all generators, or if you ignored every rule in this guide and only 1 survivor is left, asshole, and the gates are powered, the last person is permitted to find and use the escape hatch. Never are you to impede their chance of doing so. Once you have learned and followed the rules, you will never have to deal with an upset survivor ever again. They will all want to be your friend and the game will go much smoother. But don't plan to progress much yourself. These rules will hinder your chances to acquire blood points. But that's okay. You follow the rules now. Yay! The second rule book though... Oh boy, yeah, I'm just gonna read some of the ones that catch my eye. Rule number 1, the killer is always wrong. No exceptions. Rule number 2, the survivors are always right. No exceptions. Are you fucking serious? Rule number 3, the killer is always overbuffed. No exceptions. Rule number 4, the survivor is always over-nerfed. No exceptions. Rule number 5, the killer is not allowed to DC in matches. Rule number 6, the survivors are allowed to DC in matches when certain conditions are met. When that happens, see Rule 48. What's Rule 48? Killers must let all remaining survivors escape if 1 or more survivors have left the match prematurely. No exceptions. Rule number 8, as soon as the match starts, the killer must announce who they are by whatever means necessary. Rule number 14, if the killer is successfully pallet looped by the chase survivor, the killer can henceforth be referred to as an idiot and deserves everything they got. Rule number 22, the killer cannot interrupt the survivor healing another survivor. It is unfair. Rule number 23, the killer cannot interrupt the survivor mending or healing themselves. It is also unfair. Rule number 39, any killer that finds a survivor within the first minute of the game can henceforth be referred to as a hacker and deserves everything they get. No exceptions. Rule number 56. Any killer that chases someone he has already injured, hooked, or used an ability on before can henceforth be referred to as a tunneler and deserves everything they get. No exceptions. Rule number 456. When in a looping chase, the killer should never take advantage of a survivor that makes a mistake. Oh, there's different rules that concern different killers. Are you shitting me? Rule number 501. The trapper is OP and should be nerfed. No exceptions. Rule number 503. If a survivor is caught in a trap, the killer will be reported for cheating. Rule number 551. The wraith is OP and should be nerfed. No exceptions. Rule number 601. The hillbilly may never use the chainsaw as it is unbalanced and unfair. Rule number 651. The nurse isn't allowed to blink more than twice. Anything more is unbalanced and unfair. Rule number 753. The doctor's face is dumb. All these rules, I could literally just put, the killer cannot complain about the insert meta perk here. Perk. It is fair and balanced. Rule number 10,000. Under no circumstances may the killer offer plausible arguments in his defense concerning any of the rules listed in this book. No exceptions. The rule book was made as a meme based on actual brain dead survivors main who would complain in chat or DM people on console about how they were playing unfair or were camping, tunneling, using OP killers, etc. Do you really want to end up in a video where you're known as Salty Survivor who messaged me after the game, number 4164? Also, I know I said killers DC a lot, but y'all motherfuckers are crazy when it comes to the DC rate. Hell, sometimes you guys DC for basically no reason. Some of you could just be seen by the killer and be like, haha, no, and then just peace out of there. Literally, as I'm writing this script, I was watching an Ochido clip, and someone DC'd before the game even started. What the fuck? Alright, finally, we got off the killer versus survivor part of the community. Now let's see what the script says about wait, what? There's nothing here but what I'm saying. And the only word after this sentence I'm reading right now is Reddit. Well, yeah, fair point. There's actually a lot of toxicity on Reddit. To be honest, the rest of the community isn't really that toxic. From my personal experience, it's more the killer versus survivor or toxic Reddit parts that make it seem like the Dead by Daylight community is the most toxic community. The rest of the community is pretty chill. The cosplayers are cool, there is definitely some weird animations or artwork, but that's normal for every fandom and most of the time don't ruin the community as a whole. Hell, Dead by Daylight as a game isn't even that bad except for the glitches, and it's one of the few games I've played that has never pulled me out of a good mood from playing it. The only times I've ever gotten really angry while playing is whenever I was already in a bad mood from playing other games like Call of Duty or Overwatch, or if I just had a bad day in general. So really, the war and Reddit toxicity are kind of the only things that are the problem with Dead by Daylight's community. Thank you guys for watching this vid, and I hope you did enjoy it. I would like to thank Retarded Sheep for helping me get one of the demonstration clips and some voice acting work, and BC Warfare for also helping me with some voice acting work. Their channels will be in the description below. If you have any questions or criticisms, make sure to leave them down in the comments below, along with anything I could have missed or forgotten to add into this video. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace. Alright, my heart is fucking beating right now, holy shit. Yeah. Hey, also, if you put TTV in your name on Dead by Daylight, you can't complain about being stream sniped. You did that to yourself. Alright, now the video can end.
24/7, 365, waited too long, now it's my shine. I'm stunning when I'm running in the limelight. You steady running your mouth, cause I rhyme tight. 24/7, 365, waited too long, now it's...
Oh, hey, Creeper. Oh.